Yeah, baby, we're live. It is, wow, another Friday. It is May 30th, 2025. Hard to even say. Looking outside, the summer is on the way, at least for today. It's 75 in Chicago. Welcome back to WP Launchify. This is Spence. It's my office hours. We're carrying on. We're carrying on with the vibe coding Fandango. That's my word of the day. And the reason is that I had a really good show on the WP Tonic yesterday, and I've been having wonderful conversations with many of my very valuable customers and clients, you guys, that vibe coding with WordPress is not only here and it's the newest thing, but it's really the modern way of doing things, because as you'll see today, I got a validation on the audio. It is an evolutionary change in the way that you can work with WordPress. And I'm going to explain why. Can you guys please first validate for me that my mic and my sound looks good? Validate my mic and sound, please. I appreciate it as you guys roll in, as you usually do. I see there's a couple already just came in. Also, by the way, I'm going to see if this works out. I'm not sure if this live comments shows on the stage. Let's see if this works out. Show comments on stage. Wonder if I have to put them on the stage. Let's see here. Didn't read the directions on that one. I'm playing with StreamYard, by the way, before I jump into this. I'm playing with StreamYard and I love this. Also, I know that when this records, sometimes my mouth is slower than what's on screen, and that is because I need to update my PC with a better graphics card. What do you mean directions? I'm not sure, John, but by the way, you guys just answers I'm all good. Awesome. The directions for how to use the streaming comments on stage, it lets you overlay on the stream. Please note that some may not see this. I just don't know how to make it actually show up on the screen. I guess we'll figure that out as we go. In any event, I want to dive in today because I've got something for you that was based upon a request of Bernie, one of my favorite human beings and clients. And we're going to actually, with his permission, use some data that he provided and his live site as the basis for today's instruction. I want to give you guys, while I clean up here a little bit, I want to give you guys a little heads up. First of all, the rules of what Spence does. Oh, there it is. It's in the bottom right. You see it down there? It's down there. Way over there, right there. I'm not sure if I like that as much just because it is so small. John's like, who uses directions? I'm going to turn this off because I like to put those on selectively. All right, so here's the rules of thumb today to stay focused. Number one, I want to suggest that I always work without a net. Even though I did prepare something for today, because otherwise I know I would have had you guys sitting there looking at the top of my head, anything can happen. This is my modus operandi. Number two, the basis for this is that what we're dealing with now using the minute launch system, and I'm building an AI head that goes on top of it, kind of like using guitar amplifier metaphors, the speaker system, the amplification system, then you have a head to control it. I have an AI system that is on the boards now. I hope to have it released to my minute launch customers, but as part of a larger thing, it's just changed my entire life, my entire perspective. It's almost as if the last 19 years of WordPress have been coming to this moment, because both the politics, the technology, the people, the customers, my ability to show you and teach you and give to you has just made this moment possible. And what I'm saying is, instead of all of the knobs and dials and flipping the switches, all the mechanical stuff that is necessary right now to use the features inside of the box that you own and control with WordPress, we can now have an AI layer, either today doing it manually or very soon all automatic, that essentially will do all of that for us. And the metaphor to me is very similar to, I'm going to share on the screen here a couple of things just to put you in context. When I learned how to fly airplanes back in the 1980s. I've been a pilot since then. General aviation, Cessna, dials, and gauges. In those days, when I first learned how to fly, a cockpit looked like this. Okay. And this is nowhere near as complicated as a 747 or something, but essentially lots of dials and gauges. Good morning, Julie. Lots of, and by the way, for Julie, good news is after our session yesterday, I got the reporting done. I got the other things. I'm going to share that today. But the point is, the dials and gauges and stuff was what we learned how to do. I had to learn where all these knobs and switches were and which things to slide. Look at how crazy this is. And this is just in a general aviation. Imagine, 747 old dials and gauges. In the early days of the 747, which by the way came out in the 1960s, the cockpit looked a little bit like this. If I can zoom in on this, it it was crazy amounts of dials and gauges, and it also had a guy or a woman, but in those days it was a guy, unfortunately, because we weren't really the world we should be like we are today. That there was an engineer, pilot, co-pilot, engineer. The engineer's whole job was to monitor all these dials and gauges. Today, let's look at the difference. Modern Cessna glass cockpit. Today, everything is two screens. Okay. Literally two screens. All right. So here's again, they don't get rid of some of the things like the circuit breakers, but for the most part, if you can see this image, 99% of what you do now is just on this screen. And even in more modern cockpits like the Cirrus, they don't even have this many things. They just have one big screen and call it a day. So my point for all of this was that we moved forward. We've moved forward in terms of technology with WordPress, where instead of having all of the dials and gauges, imagine a scenario where WordPress's functionality under the hood is still there for the mechanics that many people who are contributing to the WordPress community may write those plugins. But to configure them, to set them up, to manage their output, their input, their data, their connectivity, we no longer need to have this full-time job of flipping dials and gauges and sliding sliders and hex codes and all this other stuff. I talked a lot yesterday and my voice is showing it. The rudest presenter ever. Nothing some saline can't help. Okay, so what I'm going to do today is take a use case that Bernie had shared with me. I'm going to go into that mode. Bernie had shared with me that he would like to have a slider, and he was so gracious as to provide me with a spreadsheet of this is dummy data, but it's not dummies. It's just dummy data, like so that we don't violate the privacy of his actual clients. And we're going to work on his site today. And the goal is for me to demonstrate for you live without a net how we're going to do in a couple different ways the creation of a dynamic testimonial slider. What the hell do we need that for, Spence? Well, let's think about it. If you're going to use the tools that are at your disposal, you have, like I do, the ability to take in input from the various people who might be interested in what you do or have been happy with what you do, and both share it on your website, share it with the world. It seems logical that you'd want to do this in a way that is dynamic. In other words, you don't have to make each one of these testimonials manually, even though it's kind of easy. You want to have a way to use the data in the future with the AI head or engine to know, look at all these awesome people. You can use it to, in the future, post to social media or share in an email or a newsletter. And number three is that you wanted the dynamic capability of being able to input that data lots of different ways. Manually, through a WordPress admin, through a CSV file, through connecting to Google Sheets, whatever, inputting a form. We can make all this happen without you knowing how to code. And today I'm calling in my assistant, who is a very feisty assistant. It's Claude. And I'm going to use a project here. So I'm going to start with this, and I'm going to go into the mode where you guys can see this. What I want to show you, you can see some of my other projects here that I use. Julie's project. There's pickleball project for Kathleen. My back doctor, Dr. Chen, who self-named himself. I've been using projects with Claude. Now, I don't want you to confuse this as the ultimate way that this is going to go, because I have 3, 4, 5, 6 different LLMs, right? Large language models. I use OpenAI, I use Perplexity, I use Claude from Anthropic, I'm using Notebook LM sometimes. I'm using the intermediary ones, like I'm using right now on my desk cursor.com that connects to a bunch of things through Open Router. Open Router is a really cool tool that allows us to connect to any APIs from anything. So I'm throwing a lot of jargon at you. Today, I'm using Claude. Claude has a new model that's 4.0 that when you talk to it nicely, does some cool stuff. And let's start with the end. One of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to dynamically create a slider. There's only one, I think there's only one slide here, but this is the outcome. And this is just one of many slides. I'm also going to show you how we might be able, if I'm lucky, to use the same system to dynamically manage and display through Kadence blocks, which still allows us the retrofitting of the cool what you see is what you get style stuff of Kadence. But now we don't have to manually copy and paste or do a bunch of drudge work. I'm also going to bring into the play here live just some inspiration from Canva, which I use all the time. What I did here was I went to Canva and I was like, show me a bunch of testimonials. And I just picked one and I fed it into Claude. Make something that kind of looks like this. Now, obviously it didn't end up exactly like that, but that's where the inspiration came from. Let's clear the deck a little bit and do some vibe coding. This is me. I also want to shout out to my new friends and old friends who recognize that I love yellow. I'm Spencer Foreman. I have a problem. I love yellow. I'm sorry about that. My bike is yellow. My jackets are yellow. I got a lot of yellows. Okay, let's start with the beginning. When you're vibe coding, when you're working with WordPress, you have to understand what you have under the hood. And one of the things that we've done with the minute launch system is if you go to wplaunchify.com, software bundle, you will see at present the current list of what's in the software bundle. At present, and this is an improving thing, if you go to type better, Spence, if you go to minute launch and you use the ingredients link, this is where when I get my shit together, I am going to have a really, really cool recipe management system where all of the ingredients are not only just there with a link to their original source, but more explanatory. Right now, it's just sort of in categories sitting on the shelf, right? And so these are the ingredients that we can use for any recipe. My ultimate goal in showing you this stuff is to make you recognize that you don't need more than a couple ingredients in order to make any of these things happen. And even better, when you use vibe coding and fluent snippets, or in the future, a different method with the AI engine on top of minute launch, it's going to be even easier. You're just going to talk to this goddamn thing. And I'm going to give you a little sneak peek because this is not done. But what I mean is, here's the not finished interface of the minute launch AI head. And it's basically going to ultimately just be like an input box with speech built in that you can just talk to it and say, I would like to make a slideshow with custom post types and testimonials and use the stuff that I've got to build it, or use the stuff that I've got to display it. I think we're that good right now that we can make this happen. So all of the things that I'm showing you will ultimately be just an input box with either a text or voice that'll be like, hey, Jarvis, it's Tony Stark. I want to do this stuff. And because we own and control everything under the hood of the components of WordPress, I am able to make that happen. Versus, let's do warning, versus you kids out there who keep throwing your own ingredients into the soup and making it impossible for me to help you, because yesterday I spent 3 hours with a brilliant client and their team who I love to death, who have paid me thousands of dollars just in the last month because somebody on their team cannot resist throwing plugins into their minute launch system and breaking the hell out of stuff. So they've spent thousands of dollars of old-timey Spence hands-on work because somebody on their team can't stop just throwing random plugins in. And I keep going back to the point, by having the minute launch system and all the plugins and all the software and me with the yellow vest and this community and all the continuity, I can have a system that you can go out and sell or use to anybody and it will never break, never break. Plus the bonus of having this AI head on top of it. When you stick to the plan, don't throw your own stuff in there, not because you can't, but because you shouldn't. Okay. Notice the coffee is kicked in. Let's get started. With the vibe coding, by doing a project, I can give it some basic instructions here. And the basic instructions in the project are called project instructions. And this is very similar in many of these LLMs, where I could add instructions on how to think, how to talk, how to act, whatever. I did not do that here. But for example, I would normally type in, think like a WordPress expert. Always give me the full code. Don't guess. Review your code before you give it back to me. All this kind of stuff I will put in the show notes for today's live event. But just understand that saves me from the misery of having to do a bunch of stuff. I think I can share Julie's stuff here. And you can see some of that here, right? It's just instructions on how to behave, because I'm letting it know where I'm going with all of this stuff. It's like talking to a guy or a person you hire to be their landscaper. Like, I'm looking forward in the future to this wonderful garden, and I envision this and that. Giving it a roadmap makes it react in a way that you want, even though you're still overriding that on each of the individual instructions. And by using a project, the second benefit is, let's go to my dynamic slider. The second benefit is you can reuse these components. So I was talking to John, and he is very fond of, as many people are, Notebook LM. This is a way, for example, if I want to ask it questions, I can go ahead in there and I can take this information and just drop it in as a starting point for what I'm going to do next, right? It's very useful on top of the other parameters, like using styles, extended thinking, web search. All of these are things that I can use as instructions to the chef on what to do. I can also choose which model to use. The new ones are Opus 4 and Sonnet 4. Opus 4 is a genius, but it's really tedious. It's like hiring a PhD to kind of, write your VIP come to my barbecue invitation. I wouldn't use it unless you want to sit around all day long and twiddle your thumbs. Sonnet Opus 3 are really nice. Sonnet 4 is what I use today. Okay. Now, when you do the stuff, the chats themselves will show up here. And you notice I only have one chat because I just cowboy coded this right before we started. Spence likes to work last minute. So I am not afraid to share with you that what I did was I started with, here's a Google Sheet, which I was graciously given by Bernie. And I said, use this sheet to understand the fields and the columns that I want to use, right? He gave me the name, job title, company, and so forth. And then I went on, after it said that, I said, it started, by the way, I should have said, hold on, Tiger, but it just started coding and coding and coding. I'm like, slow down. I waited till it was done. I said, well, this is awesome as a start, and I appreciate this. And by the way, let me go bigger here. I said, here's the things I want. I want 3 steps, and you have to talk to it like a 13-year-old, right? Step 1, help me plan how I'm going to do this. And by the way, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share this project with you guys publicly when I'm done, so you can just retrace my steps. Step 2, help me figure out how I can use this with Kadence blocks. Step 3, help me build the WordPress components. I'm using Fluent snippets for the code. And that's important, because if you don't tell it what you're using as a tool, it's going to give you a full multi-part plugin. It's going to give you stuff to use in, Notion. You have to tell it what tools you're using. And that's one of the benefits, again, of using a standard set of tools. I have chosen Fluent snippets and use it with you because I can build very cowboy code style, put things in place, and there's some safety nets around that. If it works, when it works, later I can go back in and compile it into a code that is one thing. And that's something that, again, I don't think is very long for the world. I think where we're going with all this is that we're not going to need this step. We're not going to need to be building this. I'm going to be giving you an interface that just builds, using the components in the factory, the outcomes you want on the fly. And I've done this with Julie. I've done this with myself, with various clients as an experiment, and I'm just blown away by it because of how fast and efficient it is. You have a black box in WordPress that has all of the components that are constantly curated, safe, working. We abandon the old dials and gauges, and we put a Jarvis interface on top of it. I use the Tony Stark reference, not Jarvis, the translation plugin. so that we don't have to do any of this nonsense. We could just talk to it directly and it builds it inside the site and makes it happen. Okay. So it came back with a plan. I'm not going to belabor it. And it made a bunch of parts, and it was a lot of parts. And I'm like, awesome, let's try this. And just to kind of get you to the where we're at, it explained what it was going to do in really good details. I mean, laborious details. I'm like, awesome. But then I'm like, why did you give me all these parts? God damn it. Why not just give me one thing? Because like, I don't need 20 parts. I need one thing and then whatever accessories. And it's sort of, there's the teenage 14-year-old, 13-year-old. Oh, sorry, Dad, you're absolutely right. And so it started with the core system plugin. Now let me show you what I did there. Bernie has authorized me to show you what's on the back side of the site, which I appreciate greatly. Thank you, Bernie. I am going to use Admin Menu Editor Pro to organize things a little bit, even though he's got a wonderful organization system, just so that I can show you this without torturing myself. I am going to drag Fluent snippets from the bottom where he has put it. I'm going to drag it up to the top here for now, and Bernie can drag it back down later. And I'm going to put a spacer in using this wonderful tool, new separator. Okay. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to take some of the things that were created, like the testimonials, and I'm going to put it in there. Okay. And by doing that, that's going to make it easier for me as a 58-year-old who likes to be organized, but can't do anything if it's not alphabetical, to see that I've got now my Fluent snippets and the testimonial thing that it built. The snippets with Fluent are very easy to use because all we do is we create a new snippet. But here I wanted to be even more organized. Notice I've got some things down here that are kind of abandoned. I can organize these using a tag. So if I go here, when I add my snippets, one really quick tip is use Fluent snippets and then use the snippet group. I said tag. I didn't mean tag. Use groups. I created a group called Testimonial Slider. Second thing I did notice is, because I don't think this drags and drops, is I just numbered them in order so that I would see it in the order that I want it. Now, let me see if they've maybe changed the drag and drop capability. There's a couple things that Julie and I discovered I wish they had. One of the things I wish they had is version control and the ability to undo, like deleting stuff, because I deleted some stuff yesterday. I do not think these do not drag and drop. So you notice that number one, I've got a nicely organized way of seeing just the snippets for this project. And number two, by numbering them, I can get them in the order that I need them to work on them without too much torture. You'll notice that they all have the ability to be downloaded, deleted, and also published, turning them on and off, which is one of the reasons I like working here, because if all hell breaks loose, no problem, we can fix it. Notice that my numbering system is off here, so I can just quickly edit that to make it number 2, which was a forced fix. Okay. So I've got Fluent snippets, and the first thing that I did is I just went to Claude for the first thing it did, and it gave me what's called a Canva or canvas, and it's a little weird and junky here, but like you'll notice I can copy this code just by click and paste, or I can copy this way. I can also see previous versions of stuff if I open that little window. And when I copy that code, I just simply went in, made a new snippet, pasted it in place. Notice, very important, there is not a duplicate PHP tag at the top because I've already got one from Fluent Snippets. And then for myself, I also took some of its instructions and I just pasted it into the description so that later on down the road, I'd kind of understand what's going on. What I also will do personally is I'll take the actual link to whatever AI I've been using, and I will often put that inside here as well, so that if in the future I'm trying to figure out what the hell did I build and who did I build it with, I can come back. Okay. Brief pause for nice. One of the things about my current situation is I have capacity for about an hour to 2 hours of sitting. I already used that up this morning. So I'm just going to ice pack it up. Okay. Now I've got the core thing. It never, ever, never, ever works out that it works perfectly the first time. But this one actually worked pretty good. The first version of this from the instructions that I'd asked it and it gave me was, let's build something that is the custom post type of testimonials. What the hell is a custom post type, Spence? Well, remember when I'm referring to using WordPress as an engine in a box, one of the things we have is an unlimited number of storage devices that can be customized to hold data. And that data can be about anything we want. And it can have what we call taxonomies, which is categories or tags. It can also have metadata, which is descriptive stuff. And using this basic building block, you already know about it: pages, posts, media objects, products, all, orders. All of these are post types. These are just like little Tupperware containers that we can also organize and relate to other Tupperware containers by something like a category. So for example, you can have a product that's an event and a video that goes with that, and you can have a speaker. Each of those could share a category. Like, let's say Spencer Foreman has the category of Spencer Foreman, and he's in the video that has the category of Spencer Foreman, and the event has the category of Spencer Foreman, among other things. That means they can all be connected together. I can show an event, a product, along with the video that has the same category and the speaker that has the category. That's one example of how we can make use of those taxonomy items. So here I had to create a taxonomy as well as a custom post type called testimonials. Why? So we can have a container, a Tupperware container, to hold the data that we need. And this is old school WordPress. But guess what, kids? This is the kind of stuff that's freaking amazing about WordPress. Whereas if I go out into the vibe code Wild West, I got to build this stuff. I have to have this entire ability to build Tupperware containers first. It's a pain in the ass. Here, it's been around for 19 years. Now, you'll notice that I can add a new testimonial manually, like a post or a page or anything else. And by the way, when I say manually, I mean onesie twosie, not necessarily am I grinding away. When I talked to my AI good buddy, I asked it to do certain things. I said, I'm using Gutenberg. I want to have, for example, the ability to add a person's photo manually. Bernie's got this wonderful, let's make, I don't know if that's a person. Let's add a fake person from Pexels. I don't want to out anybody. So happy woman. I added a dude. Let's add, this looks like a very happy customer. Okay. I'm just adding some data from Pexels, so it's public domain. Okay. We're going to set that as the featured image, and we're going to put her name in here, Susan Smith. And the testimonial is right here, just using the normal content editor, right? Because that's how I asked it to set it up. Very simple. It already exists. I can't type. I can't. By the way, watch this. I'm going to use my whisper type. Let's see if this works. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Hold on. I'll use my whisper typer. This is a thing you can't see on the screen. Maybe I'm going to see if, no, unfortunately you can't see it, but watch, I'm going to whisper type. I can't believe how awesome KPI Academy is. And so what happens is it just, you can't see it, but it just will paste it in place. Done. And next, I'm going to go in and I'm going to say, what's the information about the person? Now, one of the things that any of you who have used ACF in the past, advanced custom fields, realize is you can build these things with advanced custom fields, but what a pain in the ass that is when you don't need to use it. What do I mean by that, Spence? ACF is like the workhorse of building any kind of custom post editor where you enter stuff into your Tupperware containers. Normally, you have to go in and you have to make a field group and do it manually. You have to grind away at all this. Notice, we don't need it here. Post type, watch this. Notice, we don't need it. ACF is great. We don't need it. The only tool we need here is just core WordPress and Fluent snippets. And that's like mind blown. Does that mean that ACF is no longer necessary? I don't know. Maybe not. But the fact is that, like the Cessna, if we can get rid of 20 of those gauges and dials and just put one screen in and do stuff directly, isn't that a better world to live in? Because why do we need to learn how to use ACF? It's a pain in the ass. It's really complicated. It's awesome, but it's really complicated. Okay. Person's name. Now, notice there's an asterisk there, and that's because fill in their name. The main testimonial text should be in the editor above. If you want to make sure that this comes through, even though the post type is Susan Smith, we want to put their proper name. So Susan M. Smith, maybe that's, or Dr. Susan M. Smith. Okay. So you can give the person the chance to have something different than just the safe name for the title. And the job title is surgeon. Company, MCM Hospital. Country, United Kingdom. She's being very cagey. Okay. Did she take any of Bernie's courses? She took the design masterclass. Testimonial date. We use the built-in tools. This is really awesome because these are just built-in WordPress admin tools right here. If you want, she can put in a video testimonial that can play like, hey, Bernie, you're awesome. This is great. And all you would do for that is just do a YouTube link or any other online video. You can also put the URL of the headshot. Notice, don't need to do it if it's already been saved as part of the featured image, which is awesome too, right? We've already got a featured image here. If I wanted, I could copy the image address, put it in there. This is good for those who have remote images like on LinkedIn and they just want to share that. Custom headline. This is where we can do whatever we want. I love KPI. Okay. Tags. Excellent. Recommended. Recommended. These will be added as taxonomy items for future use so that you can filter by people who thought recommended, excellent, exceptional, or stars. Property. Again, this isn't that useful, but Bernie had a column in his spreadsheet about this. So this is consulting. And then if there were people who found this helpful, 10 people. This would be if we implemented like a thumbs up or some other rating system. Don't have it yet. Don't care. We publish. So this is the way, in literally as quick as asking my 13-year-old for help, it gave me everything to create the custom post type, the container, the taxonomy, the field entry, all of it without any help whatsoever. None from ACF or any of the extra overhead. Notice no dials and gauges or anything. What am I talking about now? Back to the Minute Launch AI. Use your hats. Everybody put on their thinking hats. Kids, if I could do that with one snippet, and I have an AI that is trained by me to know all of the plugins and all of the tools and everything else, do you see how easily I could train the AI engine, knowing what's in the site, knowing what AI available WordPress tools there are for forms and sales funnels and products and services, and knowing what's in there? Can you see how quickly I could just give it the intelligence to be trained to build anything out of those without needing to use the dials and gauges and another tool like ACF? Bueller? Anybody? Somebody give me a high five. Anybody in the comments if you guys are still awake? Somebody commented on my last vibe coding. I love this, but boy, is it exhausting to listen to you. I'm sorry. I'll try to not be so boring, but in the meantime, this is amazing stuff if you're really trying to build a business here. Okay, let's take a look at what happened. First of all, when we go to the testimonials, when I refresh the page, let's share the screen again. Susan Smith is now in there. Notice we also got these custom columns that we can show or not show, depending on what we want to see, about, sort by person, sort by company, sort by title. All of this was just done. One prompt. The world has changed, kids. Let's go to our front end and refresh the page and see what happens. Notice there's some things that I might, that maybe I want to change. These things are a little off. Like this was supposed to be circles. I need to tweak the code. These are probably supposed to be circles. Maybe needs a little tweaking, but gee whiz. This is pretty crazy. And it's already got some kind of built-in like automatic movement system. I don't know what it's set up for that. Maybe we want to hide that. But gee whiz, as a starting point, just out of the box, pretty crazy, right? And I'm not trying to impress anybody here by saying this is the be all end all, but the ability to generate something and get the styling that was inspired by an image, that's pretty amazing. Under the hood, let me show you how we did some of this other stuff. When I went to the first version of this, let me close the Canva window. It outlined what I was going to do with the new thing, and it also gave me an import system to add more people. It gave me a short code that I can use. In order to put it on there, I went ahead and I added a page. So if we go to pages, all pages, we will see that I just created a regular page, which I can use this shortcode anywhere, but I happened to put in a page that was called dynamic testimonials or testimonials display. Okay. And that is the page that I have right here. And all I did was I took the recommended shortcode, I put it in the page, I styled the page, you know, to give it the essence of what I wanted with Kadence, right? Like normal width layout and so forth. And then I don't even think I put it in a row, but I probably would put it now into a row. So, you know, Spence always recommends add a Tupperware container of a row so you can control the layout and the styling very granularly. And I would probably just put that shortcode into there, which give me a little tiny bit more control. Let's fix a few things here. Let's take this, and now that it's saved, it's probably going to be a little narrower and not bad. Okay, so that's how I displayed it. But then the style was just not quite right. So I just went back and forth with it. I'm not going to bore you to tears, but I'm like, you know, work through the step-by-steps. It gave me what I needed. And then I started arguing with it a little tiny bit, as you'll see in a second, where I'm like, it's not outputting the testimonials, and I don't see it the way I want it, and I needed to have these extra fields, and I referred back to the original spreadsheet. This is like talking about a call I had with my relatives or something. And what it did is it said, you know what, you're right, this isn't working, replace the first one, which I did. Then I said, I want to use the date picker from WordPress instead. Just little nuances back and forth. And then I reminded it that I want the style to be more like this. So we were having trouble making the styles. So it gave me a couple tries, didn't get it the first time, ultimately decided on essentially an extra snippet, which you can see here where I was telling it, like, this is what it looks like. And by the way, that's a great tip too. When you want to fix stuff, I just use the screen snipping tool here. Okay. And let's actually show it all of this. Let's show it those weird icons. So watch, let's do this live. I'm like not happy with a couple things. Okay. So I'm going to take this image, and whether you mark it up or you just tell it, I'm going to circle this in red. Okay. And now let's give it some instructions. Watch how I talk to this. By the way, Julie will get a kick out of this. If you start talking to Claude Sonnet or Opus in a certain way, like yesterday at 11:30 at night, I started swearing at it like a sailor over something with Julie's site because I had been working on it with her for 2 hours and I was just at my wit's end. It started swearing back at me. It was hilarious. I'll show it to you. But anyway, watch this. Okay. So loving this. But one, the style of the bullets on bottom is off. They should be small and round. Two, the arrows to go to next slide don't work and should be smaller and round. Three, the pause button has to go. Four, where are controls for me to set up the slide motion, if at all? Here is image to show you. And I just pasted in place. Okay. What that does is it gives it enough information that it's going to suggest a fix, which again, vibe away, baby. I'll just put it in a Fluent snippet. One of the things that I can recommend while that's doing it is if you use that gist GitHub, you will save yourself the misery of what happened to me yesterday, which is losing track of what you did is the worst. You can always go back into the actual thing, but I think that an easier way of doing this is just go to the Fluent snippet that you're working on. And as a matter of just like make this easy, just go ahead and put that in place for the last thing you did before you change it. So I'm going to take a copy of this and I'm just pasting it in here for right now. I don't even have to save it really. I just need it somewhere that if I don't like what happens, I can go back. Okay. So it tells me, perfect, I fixed all these issues. All right. Well, all I'm going to do is just copy paste. Again, super easy, sort of a pain in the ass because it's copy paste, but imagine you don't have to do the copy paste very soon. And it sort of shit the bed. Now, maybe it doesn't intend for me to do this here. So I probably pasted it the wrong place. Ah, wrong style. I did not read. So the problem is me. Let's not save that snippet. Let's go to the snippet about style, which is for style. I think it wants it to go here. It's testimonial style fix. And the way you can tell that is if you go to the top, testimonial styles fix. So see, the problem is the human. We're getting there very quickly where I just need to get out of the way. Styles fix put in place. And what I should have done, because I probably needed to, and watch what I do. I'm going to copy this. Make sure, by the way, we don't lose those fixes I made manually. Can you apply your updates to my custom CSS? And by the way, this is Fluent Snippet 2. I can now refer to it. So, and I paste it, and I should have done that quick, but I hit the enter button too fast. Sorry. You can update as you go. Yeah, Julie, it's hilarious. Watch this. In fact, oh, I can't do it while I'm doing this, but I'll show you some of the stuff. I was using the F word and worse, and it started F-bombing back to me and putting F-bombs in the notes, and I was cracking up. I was watching Mobland on Netflix with my son, and I was like, maybe it hears the TV or something, because it was like a sailor. It didn't use the C word, but it did use the F word. Okay, so it's updating this. And what's nice about this is that okay, let's try this now. Again, what I'm going to do is I'm not as worried about this one because it's CSS, but what I would do is copy this, I'm going to paste it here, and then I'm going to copy its suggestion, and I'm going to replace it. And I'm going to update that. It'd be so cool if this had versions. Again, I don't know if that's coming with them, but almost doesn't matter. Maybe I'll build a version of a plugin to do that into the AI. Okay, let's see if that fixes it. What you might have to do is just clear the cache. And again, I'm not here for the design part. I'm just here to show you the concepts. Kind of cool, but still not really kind of working. And it didn't fix the mechanics. So again, this could be a couple things. It could be the cache, purge everything. Or it could be something else. I'm not going to belabor this because I want to get to the Kadence stuff, but like just to give you a sense of where it's going, you could argue with this for a while, or if you're, modestly comfortable using the inspector like I've shown you, you can just go to the thing. And I know already in my head, because I've done this for a while, what the problem is. Typically with the things that are supposed to be round, there's a radius, and the radius somehow gets whacked by something else like the padding or who knows. Okay. So I'm not going to get into this too much, but see where it says height and width and radius. Let's just see what happens when we tweak the radius a bit. That turns it into a square, and that's still an oval. So that tells me there's something wrong with the padding or the width, because that's normally supposed to be 50%. And again, you wouldn't know that. You don't need to know that. But if I adjust the width, I bet you we can achieve what we're doing. No, something else is doing it. And again, these are easily solved problems once you understand like some basic CSS, but it's not really for us to have to worry about that. So instead, what I'm just showing you is the neat thing is, see, all of this is fixable. If you set those fixed things, I think it's a scaling issue. And that's probably what it is. But I just want to show you that it's possible to fix this. And I could get into an argument with the CSS forever. I'll do transform. Again, you do not need to do that. Scale. I think we can do like, 0.5 or something. You see where I'm going with this? So the idea is these are all fixable with CSS, super easy, no big deal. But I don't want to sit here and argue with this thing. And I also don't want to argue about it in terms of how it's doing it. Let's move on to the CSV thing before we do Kadence. Now, remember I asked it to do an import system, so I could just add testimonials via a CSV. Notice it gave me an interface in the admin dashboard, which for the moment is super awesome because I didn't have to write a plugin or code or anything. It just did it for me, right? It told me what should be in the CSV, told me how to do a file. It also gave me options: update testimonials, download and set images, publish testimonials immediately. Let's just go for it. And it even gave us a sample CSV. I didn't ask it for this. It was smart enough to know. I mean, that's amazing. I'm going to take this. I'm going to say file save as, hopefully download as a CSV. Testimonials for slider. Let's see if this works. I have not tried this because I like to work without a net with you guys. Downloads, testimonials for CSV or slider. Cross your fingers, kids. I don't even know what it made for me, but Bernie's got about, 8 or so people in there. Let's see if it worked. We go to all testimonials. Crossing fingers. Crossing fingers. Did not work. Did not work. Let's see if we can figure out one more time if it didn't. And then I'll ask my coding pal, what's the deal? Because I'll just give it the file and I'll say, remake this file or tell me what's wrong, which again, hours and hours and hours of time saved. Okay. I don't think that worked because it didn't give me any notifications or anything. So what I would normally do here is just say to it, hey, throw me a bone. Didn't work. Okay. So watch this. I tried your CSV import, and while it looks great, it doesn't work to import anyone. And maybe it's my file format, or can you fix this and let me know? I mean, I'm just being lazy. I'm going to upload the file. I'm not even giving it great instructions. I'm just sort of going like, oh, can you fix this for me, please? And that's all you need sometimes. Quite honestly, the less you say lately, the better in many instances. Let's see what it does. The column names don't match because I'm a human. It built something using that as inspiration, but it just didn't make it to the final version, right? So it's fixing it to match my column names instead of the other way around, which that's not bad. Maybe it's going to break something else, but we'll see. It really didn't work anyway, so it's not like I'm risking anything. And this is a different snippet, which is, again, one of the cool things when you build in a modular way with snippets. You saw that we've got the main layout working. We've got the custom post type working. We've got the CSS working fixed. By having the parts as separate components, we don't break the crap out of the other stuff we've built, which can be really maddening. And when you're finished, we can ask it to take all of this and put it into one plugin if we wanted to, which would be probably the way I would do this. By the way, it's officially pickleball weather here today. We're sunny and approaching 72 degrees. I'm feeling very excited about that. All right, let's copy this. Again, What is Claude Code, Sid? I don't know what that means. I do use on my desktop, I use Cursor. Is Claude Code a desktop component? I'm not sure. Tell me what you mean by that. Because what I'm trying to do here, by the way, that's a great question. From the standpoint of like teaching you guys how to vibe code and stuff, we're at like, hey kids, here's the alphabet. And then we're going to make, here's nouns and verbs and adjectives, and here's sentences. Like I'm trying to bring this into the environment because two things. One, I have, let's say 20 years experience developing. I can use more advanced tools and know the concepts, but this would be like throwing somebody into that 747 cockpit. Too much. So by just showing you what you can use on your browser, copy paste, a little easier. Second of all, I've shown the tools. In fact, last week I did a whole thing showing the tools. They're incredible, but boy, oh boy, do you have to understand what you're doing with it. Otherwise it's a waste of time. Ultimately though, where I'm going with this is I'm trying to give you a sneak peek that we won't need to use an external IDE or use an external tool because we'll be able to do this inside the site. And your suggestion is it's a tool where you can talk and yes. I'm excited to try it. I don't know what that is. Can you give me a link, please, so I can refer to it? There's now like a dozen agentic coding tools from everything from built into Microsoft has their version with Visual Basic or with their IDE. There's the stuff that's built into GitHub. Give me a link. We'll talk about that in the end here, but I'm doing it now manually because I want to just show the concepts and give you guys something that actually comes out ahead. Different people's experience will come out with different results. And I definitely think we're leading up to me showing you more and more advanced stuff because this has gotten a really good welcome from my community because it's really changing the nature of WordPress. There's no denying it. And since I can really deliver the goods in functional outcomes, I am like blown away by all this. Okay, I got to refresh this page and let's go into Fluent Snippets again. I think I had them somewhere else. Let's go here. Let's just do the CSV importer. Sid, please give me the link. Thanks. Can you give me a link that I can find on Google or just a URL that explains it? That would be helpful if you'd like. Otherwise, I'll try to find it on my own. That would be awesome. Thank you, my friend. Okay, let's see if this snippet does what we need it to do. The magic. We're going to close this window just so I'm not wasting time. Now let's go to the testimonials, import CSV. Last week I did a YouTube thing that was awesome. It worked the first time. Let's see if I get any luck here. Testimonials in the current format that was given to me by Bernie. I'm crossing fingers. Seems like it's doing something now because it's spinning more, which is always a good sign. I like where this is going. If I was to modify this, I would probably ask it to put in like a progress wheel or a bar, like, but if I look into the browser tab at the top, which is unfortunately underneath the, oh, you can see it right there. It's just to the right of Launch Club logo at the very top. It's still spinning. Could be good, could be bad. There's only 8 things, so I'm not sure what's taken so long. So I'm hoping for the best. I'm going to give it another 10 seconds because it could also be hung up. One of the things that I would do on the first try is I'll turn on my console in the inspector. I right click. Thankfully, there are no errors showing up, which means it's not hung up on like a JavaScript problem, but it seems like it's hung up on something else. So let's see if it actually did work here. Did anything. It could be a lot of reasons, not the least of which is it's might be caught in a loop. If it's caught in a loop, I hit the X, stop the process, hopefully save the server from being caught in a perpetual loop. Let's see if we got anything out of it. Or maybe I crashed the site. That's possible too. When you're working with a live site, understand the nature of what you're doing has risks. Not impossible risks, because we can always just kill the snippet, but risks nonetheless. Okay, this thing seems caught. What I do first is I'm going to deactivate it, which may be one way to stop the process. Maybe not. And then I'll try to reload the testimonials. And I'm going to try to get the site back, first of all. Okay. It actually did import the stuff. So one of the things that it did is it was just importing, and I think it just choked on itself. So what I'll tell it is this, just so you know what I would do. I think it worked, but one, I need some kind of progress visual like the built-in WordPress spinning wheel or progress meter bar. So we know what's going on. Two, I need a safety net to kill it in case it gets stuck because I didn't know it was done or what. Fix, please. Now, what it'll do is just take my suggestions and do what it wants anyway. So it understands these concepts. I don't know how. I did some research yesterday and I found out that we really don't understand how language models work. It's just like understanding why people work. You say stuff to them and you hope they understand you, but like everybody interprets words differently based upon their education, their history, their culture, their brain power, who knows? And that's how these are all working, which is really crazy. So it's adding a fix here. In the meantime, let's just see what we ended up with, because I think two things are important to me. Number one, you have this capacity as an engine to, again, manually import stuff this way. I could ask it, I'm low on time, so I'm not going to do it. I could ask it, and I'm sure you know how from what I'm showing you, I could ask it to have a fluent form that pops up that somebody can add, or do a front end, pop-up visual. It's not hard to imagine which direction I would go with this, because I've shown you things like that before with 1WDTV. For example, we've got fluent forms in the Minute Launch stack. I just made a form for my own testimonials that pops up with that short link. This data immediately can be ported in there. I could have the same form fields that I'm manually typing offered to a client in order for them to just do this. So I could either use Fluent Forms or I could ask it to create that kind of a system built into this. Whichever way you want to do it, there's really no outcome difference. The outcome is, do you want to continue working with the tools to manually create stuff, or do you just want to have all this dynamically created? And that's, by the way, something when I was dealing with Julie that was really interesting, because we were trying to decide like how to make these reports. I'm going to show you this in the end. And one of the things I said to her is, it sort of feels a little laborious now to have all these manually generated reports when we can just program the system to generate anything graphically and dynamically just from the data. So again, I'm talking fast, but we're in a world now where I have 4,000 unlimited workers available to me for free. Why would I want to even bother with doing knobs and dials? Why not just say, go make beautiful stuff and spit it out the other end? So let's take a look at what it put in here. And then I'm going to show you the Kadence thing, but really quickly, because I don't want to get too hung up in this. This was designed to show you, not do it for you. And so this did essentially what we needed to. It put in the fields we needed. And I don't know if this shows singularly because I didn't set that up for it, but no, it doesn't. But you can see the data in there. This is designed only to output into the slider. So I bet you Annabella would show up in the slider. And there she is. So, I mean, welcome to the new world. This is crazy cool. Now, what I did ask it to do before I got involved in this other stuff, and again, I'm sharing all this with you, is I said to it, let's do a Kadence version of this. And one of the things about Kadence, which is awesome, is Kadence already has, let's go to the page. I'm going to go to the actual display page. Let's go to this page here. Kadence already has this really wonderful ability to do sliders, and you can use dynamic data, which is awesome. So I just want to show you out of the box without building anything custom. One of the things you can do is just show the post types. But the problem is it's not really going to know what to output out of the box, because it's just going to be only putting the title and the content. So out of the box, if you use Kadence slider or something, let's put a row in and let's do a singular thing. If I use the Kadence slider, like advanced slider or advanced gallery, Let's do slider. I mean, this is cool, but you notice that it's kind of manual. So like, what the hell am I going to do here? Right? There's not even an option like you normally have to do dynamic data with this. It just doesn't exist. So, wow. This is what I did on WP Launchify to, make some content because I had images of sliders, but that's not really great. Let's delete that and let's see what the advanced gallery does. Similarly, this allows you to do images, but not the kind of way we really want to do it. I don't think, because there's not fields available to do this. This just lets you choose like the source of the images. If you click here, you could say, what is the source of the image? Now, what I could do out of the box is I could use this post custom field, and I can use as a source the images from that post type, which that's not bad. But let's, for example, we have to turn on this thing to say use fields from other post types. And I have to choose from testimonials, right? So here I would choose from testimonials, and I would have to find it. I don't know what it's labeled. I'd have to research it of what was just created. But what we would probably find is the fields that we created for that post type. And let's actually change this to let's see if I type testimonial, if I can find it. I don't think I'm going to find it. I'm going to say this isn't the outcome we want anyway, so I'm not going to worry about. But what I would normally need to do is I need to say the testimonial post type, and then I would need to say what's the name of the field that holds the image. Remember, we had that one custom field, if not the featured image, right? So this isn't really necessarily the greatest way to do it either, because even when I did this, I don't have anything that I can really put on top of it. These are just images. Okay. So what else do I have available to me? Well, I asked this to give me an example of how I could do that. And usually we would use a query loop. So one thing we could do is a post. If we use the standard out of the box posts, we can go ahead and find the post type of testimonials, and it's going to show the name and the featured image if we wanted to, which is not too bad. That's a pretty okay thing. But if we did it this way, as you can imagine, obviously we style the layout, but what we have to do is, let's do alphabetical, and let's do, we can do some style with the images, image ratio, we'll do 16:9, and maybe we change the, layout itself. These lead to the individual. It's not like a testimonial slider. This is more like you'd use as a directory of people. Okay, so what are we really going to do? What we really want to do is it gave us a real shortcut. I love this. One of the things is it gave us a ready-made pattern. I asked it to, and it did. So if we go here to patterns and we type in testimonial, it gave us Kadence dynamic testimonial slider. Now, some of this shit was broken out of the box because I didn't have a chance to update it. And that's okay. We're going to fix some of that. But what I want you to understand is, out of the box, let's try this, by the way, another way. Out of the box, if we just do a pattern, do Kadence dynamic testimonial slider. Out of the box, it created a bunch of short codes. And what these are, they represent the stars, the headlines, so on and so forth. And in doing so, let's just resolve that, if it will. Convert it to blocks, maybe. They kind of broke it, but I haven't worked on this. Let's try one more time. This allows me to output, theoretically, the individual components in a way that will make me able to style it, right? And it explained to me how it was able to do that. I'm low on time, so I'm not going to really do that. Okay, I will look for that. But the concept is, instead of having to do everything custom, I can output this. Now, what we really need to do here, and that might be why this is breaking, is we really don't want to do this way. We really want to do this with a query loop. A query loop lets you go into a custom post type and grab any number of things, just like the post block, but we can do whatever layout we want. So let's put in here query loop, and I'm not going to do this probably to the full end. We'll create a new one called testimonials. And in this case, we're going to do no style blank. And we're going to say post type of testimonial. And we'll call this testimonial. And next, what we're going to do is say, make a card. That's the layout for this individual cards. And we're going to go blank because we want to do it ourselves. So we'll say testimonial layout card. And we can put notes in there to remind us what it is if we need. And then this is where you could go in and it can get all of the information that you need in the way that you need it. And how you do that is, let's first of all simplify this by, there's a card that has title, date, and whatever, okay? We don't really want the title as the headline. We'd want to use something else. So let's get rid of this janky stuff that it's got in there. And let's start by adding add after. We're going to add, sorry, I had to start over. We're going to add the fields that kind of represent what it was talking about. Okay. So let's do, I'm going to change this way. I'm going to add into the card, add before. I'm going to put image, advanced image, and then dynamically, I can now use the data field for that image, right? Which is the featured image from the post type, right? So in this case, if I click on it, I can just say, use the post featured image from testimonials. Simple. Next, the title, I don't really know that I need that. So instead, let's see if we can figure out the field of what they said. And I'll say add before, and I'm going to use a heading, advanced heading, because I like that. It gives me a lot of style control. But dynamically, I click the database button, and I'm going to do the same kind of thing. I'm going to say content, post title, post ID, blah, blah, blah. If I go down here, it will sometimes show me what's available from a custom post type. But in this case, it's not a normal post type. So what I have to do is do post custom field. And I just type that at the top here. And again, I'm not expecting you guys to become experts in this. Don't worry about it. I'm just giving you an example, right? So post custom field. And this is where I have to kind of, current post, I have to choose from what maybe shows up. And it doesn't give me a lot of options because I think they were hard-coded custom. So I would need to know the names of those fields. I don't really know the names, but maybe I can make a guess here. And the way I would make a guess is I would go inside of this and just try to look at the name that it gave me. Remember, we did not use ACF. If we used ACF, this would be easier on the front end because we'd be able to identify the field names. Here, I just have to figure it out. So let's go, for example, I know I could do the quote, but let's see if we get the person's name by inspecting this and seeing if the name of the field is available as a meta object. So I just look at it and I'll see with the inspector, I'll put the tool into the field. And it says input type ID, testimonial person's name. Okay, cool. Let's see if this works. Totally winging it here. I'm going to say custom field. That is not what I copied. That was too much. Hold on. It went a little wild on me with the copying. It was person's name, copy, post, paste. There we go. Oh, something is slow there. Persons, what is it called? it seems like it's jumping on me. Testimonial person name. And so what I'm doing there, if it's available, I don't know if it's going to work, is I'm just trying to see if I can put the information in there. Testimonial person name. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. We'll find out. But the idea would be if I can get in the current post type with the current post, and I can get the correct meta key, then that might show up. The last thing that I'll do, just because for time savings, because none of you guys are going to bother doing this for what I'll show you in a second, is let's just put the content in there. So I could do the same thing if I add before, and let's do another advanced heading text. With this one, I'm going to do a span, and I'll do dynamic, and I'll just do the content because I know the content is what was typed above. So I'll do post content or post excerpt. I think. Let's do post excerpt. Sorry, I can't get my mouse to work so well. And so that's the quote, right? Like in this case, I like using this span because I can change the style of it, right? I can do advanced typography, and I could go like, I don't know, handwriting or something. Let's do a delicious hand drawn. And maybe I do some kind of style that is, indicative of italic. That one isn't so good. Let's try something else. Swash caps. I'm going to delete these other things. Okay. My font family didn't apply there. I'm not really sure why, but let's just do Lado. It's probably just because I'm not previewing it, but let's see if I also apply a color of red. Okay. Concept is now I've got a query loop, but this isn't really what I want to do with this. Like this is just a card. What I'd really want to do is I would want to use the query loop, the query card, and do a slider or do other, kind of display. But just to kind of prove the point is that the content itself is available. I'm able to make a query card and a query loop. I can adjust, obviously, some of the link settings and the style of the image and the ratio and all this sort of thing. But when you do this, you can spend some time and make something really beautiful and make a slider, and Kadence is able to access it. In this case, I'll just call it like an output of all of the testimonials. It's not obviously attractive. I don't have that much time. We're already over time. But you see, I'm able to get all the data and spit it out. All right. I want to show you one last thing, and then I'll go to this link real quick before I go. Claude Code. Okay. So they got a new tool. I'll check it out. Looks cool. It looks exactly like what I'm doing here, but it's an online thing. There is something that just came out also from Google that's online that allows you to have not just one agent working on one chat at a time, but essentially give it instructions and let it go to town while you sleep. And this is why I'm so excited how fast this is all moving, because this means that if you know a little bit from what I'm showing you, and you've got under the hood, which is important to me, you've got all of the minute launch components. You can use something like I'm using now Desktop for creating the code. You can use this new tool from Claude that allows you to work online, and you essentially turn it loose on a project, go to bed, and wake up, and somebody's standing over your bed saying, "Are you Sarakana?" No. What you really end up with is potentially saving all this manual work. And that's why I'm so like chuffed on all this. It's happening so fast that everybody's racing to create these tools, these outcomes, these whatever. What I've just demonstrated, though, is between waking up this morning, preparing for this webinar, and doing this webinar, I've now given you guys, hopefully, I'll give you the code and Bernie, a really powerful tool to input, manage testimonials. Even if you just use the custom post type, we've eliminated an entire set of tools that you would have had to use, like ACF. ACF is nowhere to be found. If I was to take this further, as I will when I have more time, because I don't want to go too far over today's allotment, I would take all of these things and say, build a plugin. In fact, just for shits and giggles, let's do that. And then I'm going to show you that thing about with Claude arguing. I'm going to say, this is all awesome. Can you take all these parts and put them into one plugin for me with one file ready to use in WordPress? Now, in the past, and if you're using the free version, Claude will be very unhappy with the amount of content it has to generate. It's going to go, oh, I'm sorry, I've used 200 lines of blah, blah, blah. You have to click continue. It might do that here. Or it might shit the bed, or it might be like breaking stuff. But with the modern tools, or using something like Sid recommended, or using, the desktop related stuff, I'm going to town. I mean, I'm doing things that have really high level object oriented code capability, organized, connected to GitHub, synchronizing, all these geeky terms I'm saying. Like, I'm flying in a 747 to space with modern tools, and you could be doing that tool. But the outcome of this is, when you move it into a plugin format, you've now got something that, let's be honest, in the past in WordPress, me and other people had to spend days, weeks, months, years developing, coding, hand figuring out, typing endlessly, coffee, back injuries. It's all over. It's over. It's over. And when you see from me and other people an interface that goes on top of the WordPress stack, and I can just skip all of this external tool stuff, and it knows what's in the site, it knows my customers, it knows my behavior, it knows the things I want, and you too, you will be able to just talk to it like Tony Stark talks to his face mask. And that's not a year from now, or 6 months from now, or 4 months from now, or 3 months. That's like, I'm talking weeks away, maybe sooner, depending on if I have a good weekend. Crazy. Okay. It's working on this plugin code. I'm going to show you one thing, and then you guys, I appreciate you so much. While it's doing that, well, I don't want to interrupt it, but let's just see what it comes up with, because if I interrupt it, this might slow down. It's just taking all the bits and bobs, and it's just making it a plugin, right? I mean, this is awesome. I'll give you guys the plugin, of course, because let's talk about the monetization. Where are you going to make money in WordPress in the future? For using it for your business, as an implementer, as an agency owner, as a person with skills. Guess what you're going to be doing? You're going to be using the minute launch system with the AI interface to just go ahead and build crazy cool shit. Because you know what's really hard? What I do is hard, from having to get all the factory machines in place in the form of the curated plugins and the stuff of the world that currently is. As we move forward, WordPress as a black box will be awesome using that today. But as time goes on, people will not be building plugins anymore, even the plugin authors. And I'm trying to build an ecosystem for them to earn money. They'll build stuff that the black box's AI can use to make stuff for you. So you'll pay one amount to just get everything ready to run. So you don't have to be a hosting expert or a coding expert or anything. And you'll just be able to talk to it or use pre-made things for your marketing automations, your sales funnels, your checkouts, your e-commerce, your forms, your customer testimonials, the design. All of this will be the same stuff that we've been just grinding away with the knobs and dials. And we're just going to put those digital screens in place with the audio interface. And you'd be like, not make a pretty theme, but build an outcome for myself or my client, and then track it and run it and keep me posted. I got to take a nap. I'm tired. It's tiring being a human being. Notice it gave me the, I'm sorry, you have to click the button to continue because this was so long. I can't help myself. Only Anthropic does this, by the way. If you code on any of the other LLMs like Google, look at this nonsense. This is only Anthropic, and they're well known for it. So I wanted to actually show you, but this is why I don't use Claude natively to compile anything. It's impossible. It has some kind of limit of the context of a certain number of lines. So lesson learned, you would compile this by taking the snippets and dumping them into Gemini or dumping them into your desktop tool, not trying to make Claude do it. Let me show you along those lines. Julie, I hope this is okay. I want to show two things. First of all, what we built, Julie and I, vibe coding, but also last night I was grinding away with the plugin, and let's see if it shows it here. Hold on. This might have been the chat afterwards. Okay, yeah. It was the chat before because I was getting frustrated. It was like 2 hours with Julie and then another 2 hours into the night because I really want to get this done for what we've been building. So watch this. Hold on. Sorry, kids. Kids, close your eyes. At some point, it's just failing and failing. It's giving me fake data and it's talking about its children and it just this weird shit. And I swear too. So I guess it just picked up on me swearing. And then at some time, I start the F-bombs. Let's see if it pops up here. Because I wanted to see this because I thought it was really funny. Fix was simple. See, it was saying like it's past. You're so right to be frustrated. Right now, it's like 11 o'clock at night. At some point, Jesus Christ, your plugin's not like, I'm really getting upset, right? I'm not sort of upset. I'm just yelling at it because what I've learned is in the instruction set for LLMs, it has a tolerance for what the user's frustration level is. And if you act angry enough, it sometimes gets you past some of these problems. It really does. Okay. I'm gonna search for the F-bomb. Sorry, kids. Here it is. I said, still doesn't work. What the actual F is the issue? Okay. And it says, you're right to be pissed off, but let's look at the code, first of all. And in the code, it started giving notes. I don't know if it did it. I don't know if it did in this one. And then maybe my whole thing is going to be lost here because I'm quite sure, and I don't know if it edited it, but I'm quite sure there's 10 instances of this. Here it is. Okay. Jesus Christ, now it doesn't work. It answers me. I overcomplicated it again. This was hilarious to me because it was answering me with that. And when I look at its actual thing in the notes of this version, and maybe we'll find it here, it actually used in the comments the F-bomb, which I just found the whole thing amusing. Anyway, maybe it's not that amusing to you guys, but it was amusing to me because as a coder, as a developer, I'm reading the notes and these are for future reference. Here it is. And it's like, just put the fucking code. Sorry, I swear, but like, just put the effing code in. I'm making too much of this, I think, but we'll see. When I find it, I'll post it in the notes because I don't want to make too long. You guys have sat very patiently. Anyway, let's talk about the outcomes of all this. First of all, I will compile this. I'll give you all the notes, all the instructions. To me, this is important because I don't think that I need to teach you guys how to vibe code. I think this is just so you're on board. And I was on the Tonic show yesterday talking about this. Do not waste your time. Adding your own recipes into the kit. Just buy the kit. The kit is $97 a month, gives you all the plugins, all my curation, all my expertise, all this community. I'm building stuff. Oh, and I'm going to show you what we built for Julie because the outcome. You don't need to build stuff. You can just, your own component. Just get the kit with all the stuff. You can build stuff with the kit. Don't add your own recipes of other things into it. Why? Because number two, all the things that you will search and find on Google, guess what? They're dead. There's 10 billion things written about how to use ACF custom fields with Kadence and to do this thing and make blah, blah. And I'm like, that's nice. I just demonstrated that I can just bypass the whole line in Magic Mountain and build something custom, even if I want to still use the page builder by not using ACF. Why would I start using a tool that's not long for the world when we don't need it? We've already got the underlying thing that stores the custom post types in WordPress. ACF was an interface for human beings to twiddle the knobs. And number three is that even when it comes to things like styling and output and so forth, the tools keep getting better and faster with agentic coding. So in a blink of an eye, we're going to have tools that are just built into everything we own that just do everything for us. And what I'm saying is WordPress is a black box we can transition from that world to the new world by having these interfaces that I for one, am building and including for my customer base. So whether you build for yourself or your clients, being able to track sales and build sales funnels and do human interaction, all that stuff is going to be easy when we just talk to the systems. Like, this is the dream of the Jetsons. One last thing I'm going to share with you is, I got to do it here because I got to get her link. But I want to show you the thing because it was funny. We finally came to it. I got to get the link of the, here it is. Here's what Julie and I have been building. I'm not going to Julie, I'm not going to show the whole thing, but I just want to show the race. She's doing something for a business with skeet shooting, and we're building it with AI. Of course, I've talked about this a million times, but the thing that I finally needed to build was two things. This is the ability where if you have individuals who are shooting, we can keep track of all their scores using basically the same kind of stuff that I just showed you, right? So we have data that's input. Let's go to scores here, all scores. We have data that's input through a very similar mechanism to what I showed you, right? For diagnostic purposes, I wanted to be able to generate test data. So I had it make me a tool. Thank you, Julie. I had it make me a tool that generates or clears test data, because she and I were goofing around, and it's very laborious to just set up all the shooter's data. The shooter's data for scores, again, very similar to what we're talking about, has a bunch of fields in it that can cross-reference. So for example, here's one scoreboard, shooter's ID, their name and information, the tournament, the club that they're involved with, right? The date, their total score. And then these are really cool. These like dynamic hit or miss things that you can actually use on the front end, which is super cool as well. We'll talk about that another time, because now you can have an interface where the person who's running the tournament could just go boop, 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 boop. Now, took that data and we want to be able to generate reports. I'm going to generate these reports manually for 5 seconds. And then I'm going to have an engine that creates all the different games. I'm going to call them games. They're called options for what the payoff is. And then it will also dynamically generate the visuals for this. So watch this. This interface was what we were struggling to. I'm going to pick the let's actually pick the fall Grand Prix. I don't know, May 22nd. Let's hope there's some data in there. I can either create a template or I can use a save template. I'm just going to do this one raw, and hopefully I didn't break it with my update this morning, because I was actually about to update her code. So what I'm going to do here, by the way, is I'm going to do live without a net. I know you guys didn't sign up for this whole long office hours, but I don't really care. I'm going to show you anyway. I'm going to go into my Fluent snippets, because this here was the final score engine solution. And I want to make sure I paste it in the right place. Final score engine solution. So I go into here and I go into my Fluent snippets, doing exactly as I showed you. This is how Julie and I have been vibe coding together. Having a lot of fun, by the way. It's very social and I enjoy it. She's a very good social person to hang out and make stuff with. So I appreciate her knowledge as well. And then this is, I want to make sure I match it up. I'm losing my mind here. This is called the final score engine solution. And so I don't know. I want to make sure before I break it that I go to the right thing. And notice I'm swearing like a sailor here too. This is, let's just make sure it says it in the top for those of you who are still with me. Let's see if it's in the extended shooter reports. This is final. Nope. I think it's the other one. And again, I don't mind. You're watching me like I would be working with you. This was probably the one. Final score. Okay. So I'm going to paste this in place. Hopefully I don't break it along the way. I noticed it gave me the warning. I can't put that extra PHP at the top because I didn't specify. I should have. Okay. Crossing fingers. I don't know if this is going to break the heck out of it. So with this, we'll do a fall Grand Prix. We'll pick a date, September 22nd. We'll call it Spence option event. There's, let's say, 4 payable places, and there's a purse of $56,321.22 divided up these ways. I'm going to generate a report, crossing fingers. Okay. I don't know if you guys can appreciate that, but Julie, it works. High five, girlfriend. After all this time, 2 things happen. First of all, this is semi-graphical, but this is just informative right now. It shows every participant and all of their scorecards broken up into 3 groups of 10 with a space that would be suitable to display or print or do other stuff. But we're going to put it into a more graphical format. But then it also gave the output. And if we were to print this, of course, we could see a preview and that would be usable for a lot of stuff by itself. But more importantly, what we're going to do is we're going to connect this data and we're going to do 2 things. We're going to save this template, right? So we can save this as a template. It needs to have the fields filled in and stuff. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to connect it to some visuals. And I want to give you a concept of exactly, right? We spend so much time. You're so patient. Let me show you this and I'll end it on this because it's an hour and a half. If I go to Gemini, Google, one of the things that Julie and I were working, Gemini is very good with graphics. Crazy stuff I was doing yesterday with making, I don't know if you saw animated Spence, but if we go over here to this one, a week ago or so, we were working on like, what would happen if we filled data in? Give us some ideas of what these reports might look like. And what Google Gemini is able to do, just like I sort of did today, is to just take data, generate a template, give me the code that I can then, like I kind of did today, put into WordPress. So what am I saying? I'm saying we've got a tool now, and Julie is one of my first vibe coding clients. You become a VIP. I interact with you. I use my experience, your business model, your client's business model. We build the tools that dynamically create a system that, I got to be honest, I think it would have been a 6-month project to a year to crazy code all the stuff that we had to do here. And now that it's done and functional and we have the ability, Julie and I can work on styling, get some help from an expert, put it all together, compile it into a plugin. And best of all, we have a system built into this that it will be able to run a business for her without her having to do any of the architecture, any of the hosting problems, because it just runs on top of the system that I'm already building in and including. So whether it's using her site as the engine or she's having other businesses like the clubs that want to use the same system, we can offer it to them in a ready to go format. So it's a wholesale retail customer oriented system I'm setting up here, where I believe I'll be able to empower all of you to go from 0 to hero. Now, he's not watching today. I have another client on the blocks, Neil, who emailed me today. He didn't understand this. I feel bad because I need to be clearer about it. I hope Neil sees this. I said, Neil, everything's ready to go. I need you to call me. We need to vibe code for 2 hours to put the pieces together. That is where I feel I do my best work. Yesterday, this happened with another big client that has a system that they've been using, and they had a custom thing where I was mentioning at the beginning today, they threw a bunch of ingredients into the soup and broke the hell out of it. It's technically vibe coding. They spent a couple $1,000 on me fixing it. They would have been better if they just not done it. But I'm saying me sitting and working with you using these mechanisms is bringing us together towards the future. Stop doing the old-fashioned stuff. Stop wasting your time on trying to build stuff with the old tools from scratch. We're just whizzing by you on the highway. Okay. I'm going to take a walk. I'm going to enjoy the weather. I'm going to wear my yellow coat. I'm going to see my drummer who's playing in another band. Sadly, not our band, but I'm hoping for a good Friday. Hope you have a great Friday. I love you guys. Thank you for participating. Send your questions, send your inquiries. Hopefully this one held your interest. I know I kind of go off in the weeds, but man, that's a lot of stuff for me to pack in there on the fly, no preparation. I'm really happy it worked out. Thank you, Julie and Ann and Sid and everybody else, John, who's here, that questions came in. Appreciate you. Have a great weekend.